Oh. This may be unedited depending on how rambly I get, but I just wanted to document how I feel right now. I'm in my pantry, by the way, in case you're confused as to where I am right now. This is just the first place that came to mind where I might be undisturbed and where it might be quiet. But I was just reflecting a second ago, and I wanted to document how I feel right now and just reflect on how grateful I am for the place that I am in my life and all that the Lord has done. I remember so many moments previously where I thought that I had felt the happiest I could ever be. And I am a very extreme emotions type of person. I experience very low lows and very high highs. I'm a very passionate person. I experience feelings very deeply. So when times are hard, a lot of the times they're very, very hard in my spirit. And previously, something that scared me was how much of a toll mentally and spiritually life could take on my spirit sometimes. It just felt like, life is hard. And something that scared me was thinking, you know, is this the best that it can get? And I would phrase it that way more for when I didn't have the Lord, but even after accepting Christ as my savior, there were definitely moments where I would experience the hardness of life and the brokenness of the world and how deep the pain can get. And I would think like, wow, I don't know that the highs are worth lows like this. And so that thought, that kind of, is this the best that it can ever get kind of feeling was very scary to me. I never want to claim that I was ever like really suicidal because that's a very serious thing to claim. And I never want to take away the weight and the gravity of what it really means to claim that. But I felt a little bit of fear and a little bit of lack of motivation to thrive in life in moments because the lows I have experienced just sometimes did not feel worth getting through, even to get to the highest highs I had experienced. And so a few minutes ago, when I was sitting on my couch and I was online shopping, and I was listening to somebody on YouTube who just lifts my spirit. Her name's Michaela Long. She's very popular. And I was just feeling so peaceful and free in that moment. I think those are two words that are very, very significant themes in my story, in my relationship with the Lord, is feeling at peace and feeling free. I think those are two incredibly underrated and under talked about emotions or virtues, even in the Christian church, where those are things that are talked about, but I don't know that I've ever really heard somebody emphasize those things as what really, you know, those things were the turning point in their lives. And they certainly were for me. Those are the two themes I would describe as the main themes of the season of my life after really surrendering to the Lord and feeling the true height of intimacy that you're supposed to experience when you're walking with Jesus. I experienced for a long time in my walk with the Lord very religious, legalistic type of relationship where like I felt like I understood God. I understood in my mind that he loved me, but it didn't really sink in. It did not lead all my actions. I did not act like I knew a God that loved me a lot of the time. And that manifested both in directly sinning, making choices that I knew was hurting God and hurting my relationship with him, but also in the legalism. I think legalism equally comes out of not understanding how much God loves you. If you heard that sound, it was my dog shaking her head. That was her ears. But I think legalism, just as much as sin, comes out of not understanding God's love for you. Because legalism comes out of a place of almost pridefulness, but I would describe it like this sense of constant guilt. It's this obligation that I have to do this or else I'm under condemnation. I have to do this or else God won't love me anymore. I have to do this or else I won't be blessed anymore. And even if I didn't say it like that to myself, I was definitely living out of that kind of mindset for most of my relationship with the Lord, my walk with the Lord up until now. Like, I wouldn't say I had truly experienced intimacy with Jesus and seeing him as I'm truly supposed to see him until probably January of last year. It's so distinct. I can give you an exact month because an event changed the season of life that I was in. And so I can very distinctly mark that as a new chapter in life and in my relationship with the Lord. And I feel like since that happened, I've just had these blinders removed that I didn't know were there, to where I feel like I know Jesus to another level, and I can see his face and hear his voice more accurately. And if I was going to describe it, I would say before, I think I pictured Jesus as this emotionless, kind of removed figure where he speaks only in solemn tones and doesn't look you in the eye when he talks to you. That was the picture I had in my head of like this sovereign, distant king that looks at you with, not with judgment, but with disconnection. And since that change happened with me, since I fully placed all of my trust in the Lord for him to provide all the needs of my heart and all the needs in my life, I feel like a blinder has been taken away, where when I picture Jesus's face, I'm gonna start crying. And you know I'm not a crier, so like that's a big deal. When I picture Jesus's face talking to me, there's warmth in his eyes and there's knowingness. He looks at me like he knows me. And he looks at me like he's happy to speak to me. And that was not there before. He looks at me like a friend and a daughter. And that has just been the first step in a domino of subtle changes that have completely turned around the way I experience life. It's like, I think we assume, especially maybe when we're young and naive, I think we assume that the ways our life really changes is through big circumstantial changes, I got the better job, or I really healed this big wound, and those things do change your life for the better in significant ways. But I feel like with me, an interesting and mind expanding work the Lord has done in my life is I feel like He has showed me that circumstances can remain altogether the same, but it's the little day-to-day things that when those get better, life becomes so much more beautiful than you ever imagined it could be. And there's so many things I want to like write a list of gratitude via this video. It's like I thought that I had experienced, the most healed and the most happy I could ever be, just a year or so ago. I thought I was very healed and very happy, and generally I was. There wasn't anything wrong, but I'd thought that the happiest I was in that season was the happiest I could ever be on a day-to-day basis. And in this season, I'm so much happier on a daily basis than I have ever been used to being. I think that, even as a child, I think I was still me. Like, I think I was still a very, serious, melancholy child. And so I think even, compared to back then, when your life is supposed to be the most blissful or the most, idealized or the most naive, I think even back then, I don't think I ever was as joyful and as light as I experience now. And that is just so incredible to feel, because I'll be brief about this because this is a big thought and this is already more than 10 minutes long. But something I had experienced since, healing from, hiding my sin of the past and experiencing pornography addiction at a young age, something that I kind of noticed was a lot of the time I would just feel okay. And I wasn't used to feeling that way because, again, a very high and low person. And so to me, feeling okay was kind of scary because it felt like almost worse than being really sad is feeling like numb or middle of the road. And I think that is normal to feel okay most of the time. But I think the level of happiness I was experiencing in the season right after healing, after coming out with those things that I had been harboring, I think that level of okay was still lower than the happiest I should be on a day-to-day basis. But I didn't realize that. I thought that was just, this is how I'm going to feel unless I'm experiencing the highest of highs, and this is just how my day-to-day mood is going to be. And I had no idea how much better I could feel until the past few months. I have started doing upper cervical chiropractic care, and I think since then my body is just regulating itself. My nervous system is regulating itself so much easier, and I felt so much more peaceful and joyful since then. And I've felt this enormous freedom from legalism and guilt. I feel like I've been walking truly free for the first time for the past few months. For the first time probably since I started watching pornography. Even after getting free from that addiction, I feel like for the first time I am walking as somebody who is loved and was bought at a very high price to be free. And I feel like the Lord has, this is very silly, but this is exactly how my mind works. My mind always ties real life situations back to TV shows or movies. But something I feel like I've been thinking about since confessing my sins and healing from that is I'll think of the Mean Girls quote of I have to suck the poison out of my life. I feel like that's what the Lord's been doing for the past couple years is like just sucking the poison out of my life. And I feel like there's a cockroach in here. I'm gonna try not freak out, but I really hate cockroaches. Please go away. Go away. Something I feel like the Lord is doing is just like healing the little parts of my life and redeeming them and making them better than even I thought they could be. And I've just been so much happier than I ever thought I could be. And I think that's a very oversimplified explanation of what I could tell you God can do for your life is you can be so much happier than you think you could be. You probably think I'm fine right now, but when you experience the love of the Lord and the freedom and the healing and the peace, my goodness, being at peace with the Lord, once you experience that, it's a greater joy than you'll ever thought you could experience. And it's different from the highest of highs, because when you're an addict, you experience highs all the time. I know this. And when you're an addict, you feel like the only time you're ever more than okay is when you're high. And that's not true. When you have the Lord, you experience this weightless, steady joy that just comes from living at peace with Him. And that's a joy that you can never experience from the exciting or fun things that the world can give you. It's more than I could ever explain. But I feel like I just wanted to document this moment. And I wish I could tell myself at 12 or 13 that the Lord loves you so much more than you could ever understand right now. And to be easier on yourself, honestly, I could have told myself that so many times throughout my life. And it can get so much better than you ever thought possible. That's all I have to say.